You must die to who you were to become who you were born to be. The greatest tragedy in life is not death, but life without purpose. And too many people are alive physically but have already flatlined spiritually and mentally because they're trapped in a version of themselves that was never authorized by their creator. You were born with potential, but potential means you haven't become yet. You were born loaded with gifts, talents, and visions. But those things are not automatic. They are discovered through death. Not the death of your body, but the death of your former identity. The death of false labels. The death of the comfort zone. The death of who you thought you needed to be to survive. Real transformation demands that something in you must be buried for something greater in you to rise. We spend years building a personality, a reputation, a routine, and then God calls us into a promise that demands we dismantle everything we've built. That's why most people resist transformation, because change requires burial. You cannot hold on to the shell of the old while trying to walk in the shoes of the new. The you that was shaped by fear cannot walk into a future built by faith. The you that was programmed by pain cannot steward a vision shaped by power. If you want to become who you were born to be, you must be willing to disappoint who you've been pretending to be. The mask must fall. The performance must end. The illusion must die. Your future is too important to be sacrificed for a version of yourself that was only meant to survive, not to succeed. When a seed is planted, it disappears. It goes under the soil. It looks like it's being buried, but it's actually being planted. And there is a difference. Burial is for something that is dead and finished. Planting is for something that is hidden and destined to rise. God does not bury potential. He plants it. He hides it beneath the soil of obscurity, of discomfort, of quiet seasons, of transitions. And if the seed refuses to be buried, it forfeits the chance to break open. The breaking is not punishment. It is preparation. The pressure in the dirt is not meant to crush you. It is meant to release what's inside of you. But the release cannot come without the death of the shell. The husk must die. The outer image must crack. The false confidence, the old pride, the toxic attachments, all of it must be surrendered. Many of us want resurrection without crucifixion. We want the crown but resist the cross. We want visibility without vulnerability. But your transformation will not happen in the spotlight. It will happen in silence. It will happen when you walk away from what they called you and walk into what He named you. It will happen when you decide that your identity is no longer up for negotiation. It will happen when you choose to embrace the pain of becoming over the comfort of staying the same. The greatest enemy of your future is the idol of your past. And until you confront that idol, until you lay it on the altar, you will remain stuck in cycles of delay, doubt, and distraction. When a person decides to die to who they were, heaven takes notice. Because that's when your life becomes usable. That's when God begins to build on your ashes. That's when clarity comes, vision comes, discipline comes. Not because you added more, but because you were willing to lose what was holding you back. This is the moment where you don't just let go of habits. You let go of identities. You let go of names, of definitions, of attachments, and you begin to walk in the raw, untamed, unfamiliar power of who you were always designed to being. The seed must go into hiding before it manifests. Everything that is destined for greatness begins in obscurity. Nothing that is powerful is born in public view. God hides what He values. He conceals what carries destiny. He does not expose purpose before preparation. And just like a seed is hidden in the soil, you too must embrace seasons where you are unseen, unnoticed, and uncelebrated. Not because you are insignificant, but because you are in process. What looks like isolation is actually incubation. What feels like abandonment is divine alignment. You are not being ignored. You are being covered. You are not buried. You are planted. The seed does not argue with the soil. It does not resist the darkness. It does not complain about being unseen. It simply submits to the process. And in that process, something powerful happens. The seed begins to break, it sheds its outer shell. The identity it once had is stripped away. Its form is destroyed so its function can begin. The old version of the seed must die so that the potential within it can live. In the same way, your old titles, your old routines, your old definitions, all of them must be surrendered in the soil of transformation. You cannot manifest who you truly are until you first allow who you thought you were to be broken open. The soil is not glamorous. It is not comfortable. It is not easy. But it is necessary. Because without that hidden place you cannot grow roots. And without roots, you will never sustain the fruit. The reason so many people collapse when they get exposure is because they had no time in the soil. They wanted manifestation without development. They wanted promotion without formation. But the kingdom of God works through principles. And the principle of the seed says, you must go down before you rise up. You must be hidden before you are revealed. You must grow inward before you grow outward. The problem is we live in a culture that worships visibility. Everyone wants to be seen, known, validated, and applauded. But what culture calls promotion, heaven often calls premature exposure. And when you rush exposure, you forfeit depth, you compromise foundation, you abandon the secret place. But nothing lasting is built in a hurry. True greatness is cultivated in silence. Purpose is forged in the fire of patience. Identity is clarified in obscurity. God uses the hidden seasons to teach you what applause never can. How to be rooted, how to be grounded, how to hear His voice when there is no crowd, how to stay faithful when no one is watching. Don't curse your hidden season. Don't resent the dirt. Don't despise the silence. The soil is where strength is born. It is where character is tested. It is where motives are purified. The soil doesn't lie to you. It reveals you. It confronts your impatience. It exposes your fears. It pulls out your pride. And it does all this not to destroy you, but to deliver you. Because when the seed finally breaks through the surface, what comes forth is not just beautiful. It's strong. It's stable. It's authentic. It's ready. You don't need to force manifestation. You don't need to rush timing. You just need to stay in the soil. Stay rooted in the process. Stay faithful in the dark. Because when it's your time, no one can stop what's been planted by God. But if you skip the hiding, you'll never carry the power. The seed that refuses to be hidden forfeits its harvest. You have to trust the soil. You have to believe that God is doing more in the dark than you could ever see in the light. You are not being left behind. You are being cultivated for the future. The seed must go into hiding before it manifests. Transformation requires separation, not isolation. There is a difference. Isolation is when you disconnect from everything out of fear, pain, or pride. But separation is intentional. It is purposeful. It is when you draw back not to escape people, but to encounter purpose. You cannot become who you are meant to be while remaining entangled in everything you've always known. There must come a moment where you step away. Not because you are better than them, but because you are becoming different from them. Destiny requires distinction, and distinction begins with separation. When God begins to call a person into purpose, He always calls them out first. He called Abraham out of his father's house. He called Moses out of Pharaoh's palace. He called David out of the pasture. He called Jesus out into the wilderness. Every calling begins with a pulling away. Because before God changes your environment, He must change your mindset. And before He shifts your assignment, He shifts your alignment. Separation is heaven's strategy for transformation. You cannot walk into the new while remaining joined to what was. You must be cut from one thing before you can be connected to the next. Many people want to transform but don't want to separate. They want growth without the grief of disconnection. But real transformation costs comfort. It costs company. It costs casual relationships and familiar routines. You cannot walk with everyone if you are called to go somewhere uncommon. Not everyone can handle your becoming. Not everyone is meant to understand your process. And if you need constant validation to transform, you will remain in cycles of compromise. Sometimes, in order to hear God's voice clearly, you must turn down the volume of everyone else's, not because they are wrong, but because their frequency is not tuned to your future. Separation is not rejection, it is redirection. It is God rearranging your space to prepare for the new version of you. And that process can feel lonely, but it is not lonely, it is holy. There is a sacredness to the season of separation. It is where clarity comes. It is where discipline is forged. It is where revelation is received. In the crowd you get affirmation, but in separation you get instruction. In the crowd you hear opinions, but in separation you hear assignment. The crowd celebrates who you were, but God whispers to who you are becoming. That's why you cannot allow the fear of being alone to stop you from being aligned. The danger is that when separation comes, most people retreat into isolation. They cut themselves off from community. They disconnect from accountability. They hide in pride or pain. But isolation is not the goal. Transformation is. Separation is not about becoming inaccessible. It is about becoming intentional. You are not avoiding people. You are pursuing purpose. You are not abandoning relationship. You are prioritizing alignment. Separation is not about loneliness. It is about focus. And you cannot focus while you are surrounded by distractions dressed as companionship. God will often allow certain people to walk away, not because they were evil, but because they were seasonal. And when a season changes, attachments must be evaluated. Every person in your life is not assigned to your destiny. Some are assigned to your history. And when you refuse to separate from what was, you forfeit what could be. Transformation demands that you be willing to walk alone for a season, in order to walk in purpose for a lifetime. Separation is the womb of transformation. It is where the old version dies and the new one begins to form. And the longer you avoid separation, the longer you delay manifestation. God is not trying to isolate you. He is trying to distinguish you. He is setting you apart, not to break you, but to build you without distraction. Vision is born in the dark, not in the spotlight. The spotlight reveals you, but the dark forms you. The spotlight exposes what you have done, but the dark exposes who you truly are. Every person who has ever been trusted with divine vision had to first walk through a season of hiddenness. It is in the place of obscurity, uncertainty, and even discomfort that vision is conceived. God does not give vision to the person seeking applause. He gives vision to the one willing to sit in the silence. Because only in the silence can your spirit become sensitive enough to hear what eyes cannot see and ears have not heard. The dark is not your enemy. It is your incubator. It is where you are stripped of external validation. It is where your gift is refined, not performed. It is where your motives are purified. In the dark there is no crowd, there is no clapping, there is no echo. There is only you, your questions and God's answers. There is only your brokenness and His blueprint. The dark becomes the delivery room of destiny. And many people abort vision because they misinterpret the darkness as abandonment, when in reality, it is alignment. God removes the distractions of exposure so He can impregnate your spirit with something eternal. Something that won't just look good on a stage, but will last through storms, through trials, through opposition. Most people want vision to come through inspiration. They want it to feel good, to come through a sermon or a song. But true vision is a burden before it is a blessing. It disturbs your comfort. It disrupts your patterns. It demands a response. You don't just receive vision. You surrender to it. And that surrender rarely happens when the lights are on and the people are watching. It happens when no one knows your name, when the stage is empty and the wilderness is full. When you're not chasing success, you're chasing clarity. When you're not trying to build an image, you're trying to uncover an assignment. Consider how every seed begins its journey underground. The roots grow in the dark before the branches reach the light. Likewise, Vision must take root in private before it can be revealed in public. If you rush that process, you get performance without depth. You get popularity without power. You get movement without direction. But when vision is born in the dark, it grows with conviction. It grows with resilience. It grows with purpose that is not shaken by pressure. That kind of vision cannot be seduced by flattery or destroyed by failure. It doesn't depend on platforms to thrive, because it was born where no one clapped for it. You must be willing to go blind to what's around you, in order to see what's within you. You must be willing to close your physical eyes, to open the eyes of your spirit. And that means walking through seasons that don't make sense to the natural mind. That means sitting in rooms where everyone is moving fast, and you are told to wait. That means trusting a whisper from heaven more than the shouts from earth. Because vision is not a product of public opinion, it is a product of private encounter. When you understand that vision is born in the dark, you no longer fear the night seasons. You embrace them. You look for God, not in the noise, but in the stillness. You stop chasing platforms and start cultivating perspective. The greatest thing God can ever give you is not a crowd. It's a clear view of your purpose. And clarity rarely comes when you're trying to be seen. It comes when you're willing to be hidden. Because it's in the dark that God shows you what light could never reveal. Die Mossum je bent er die man ik word in de man vet in. Do you want her to sesta show her be was eyes in use your okay. Alright. You know that you're an old man and you say what do you mean there? There is no room in destiny for dubasmo. A room in the journey for didn't remember ace to nowhere in destiny realize be and the same van hide or the nails no alright. Okay, kind of way. And then you are poison. Very maybe you cannot in your future. Why the no one still receiving mail from your history. I'm born where may all your history. You can die for you. In where may. You where may. Yeah. Feedback on peace in written. On the Senporni. Pre-pen. 2-year-old puifin. Too many people are trapped. Leg lasses quatui. Nor fuchin dordinton. From that, Maduru in you can trumpon my cost. Will make only the intent. Territory. Making literally there with the woman. Furnish and jelly with the parental ways. Colin, let me. Wait and they will land the luffy corn in me. Wait P, even days day. One the mansion won't quit people play. But for us they kept affording. But because the in the one go there harness nordy you're doing every opportunity. People phone recording. Opportunity. Time. A friendly money. Iprien. Every connection. Every connection drigging. Actually fusion. Boraita falling. N. Calling. Nanavan. Pair and Dians. If the ways then I ping back to the old version of Verks, it's to the faces and that in the later on version of themselves. Bang, you know we quiet to man causes and run the year your future in autonomy. It's looking for your work. It's looking for who you're becoming. It's looking for who you're becoming. You're Maui. Pia Mason this, bottom down freeze. Nfreden ding. Fee. Was that a plate tandy? What if the past can free? What if the past can still find you? I say nang ester stipple. It can still influence you. Ping e. It can still influence you. Utan. Uverden cox as a call would have been Paith genke. It can still define you. Use we with friend too. Peck and learn out in one time darken is say. In western. It's just rain. Be a van distracting. It can still distract you. Pico pen. Until your past is notified that lapitans, you no longer the no gray and live there. The Freeze and ending that a you'd harder tuck them you're than to return or now. We will always be tempted to return to the place in the creatory foundation where we go to the reason we come to read and endorse and non-winly yeah, and realize that you need to dismiss to live what tron your destiny. Bright after to tron come hot destiny, come self personing to the hair moon, your con destiny. The end and dead to as near, carbulo to know, comes and your destiny, young, she. Pagan, it Harvard one century. He doesn't call you based on your thought and destinies. He didn't call you based that's on what that on during there. That isn't near nine. I think on the use and give no comment and woman. No, you that in that. Incredible anymore like that. Sad ends in free and before what he placed. In all the things in one movements he placed emphasis first in the wordy hole living and rested new word new police and in the lady you were ever fosten. Inside of before or you and were formed. Grip upon me on a reader fence that's why. And I'm not hurry. You a fan, you wherever perform. Esma dan Pita, but looks at your potential. But while God looks at your potential, Pete Mon, Gurnan you be able to the mon, at Andrew got excellent understand Pin of the enemy tries to remind you constantly tries to remind you on anyways my friends still really interesting. The friend really limit or cost. Piet is this dang on nan Indo hurs and man here's the danger. In different when you know your former breast corner, he's in that from your former mindset. You more than that. Manita, only. This is a matter that we are saying your saw is your sabotage or choice from the inside. Your sound is more from the inside. Inside. When I'm kids a possible, but the Majorvian, and they are probing his apparition. They will hear the prisoner bestowed in crown hung. The prisoner Wouldn't talking about old pattern ends? Won't hurl you from wondering where a house. You'll sit it in the room eating potters, bat needing me all those. And then it will demon that and go down at your then the probably another patterns. Pump wide and bake harm frustrating. Pen and pronouns the demon and totam for do add parazo, work far from calm. Lily is the Hane be police in and with you, doing program gets hurting. Is your and frustrating. No man, cause you lack the power. We at bequi pen, because you lack the power. The don't know your day, but brought to you ratios to them, watching your posture. People who cares indeed lose a map, but because now you don't track it here. Next to it you may. Doesn't arrange brakeman as and dies any. In this known you refuse and change your posture. Taunton, Tom's the few pair we went we did for PM. When Israel left Egypt. When Israel lead to sexifree. Pinton one, Trahun. One is the hacker. The PSFXD3. They walked out physically. Mapanantinter Jatin in there. Still lived there mentally. Metede. Good. But many of them. The Dorlin were but kinder mentally. Alright. Poggy. The they with ends Heimer phrase. Ween outside but slave for on the outside of live. Free on their minds. But slave in their minds. Pleu They had left the location. The ruined there. Pirit hunt in the Fentimum. They had left the location. Iman gone, but Egypt still had their address. What it funny and now I mean when were the lun their address? Egypt still had their address. Ping send fought to because of P. And because of that, Arden has assembled a police and Pedja came on Pedja is it came. When pressure came, we hind out. Comodato. Tomataders, P. Etapongi. Ferdoli when wondere, go bay, wine nine. Ben one dagen what dambo quaff. Wheezing was there for cave for Kofedra being, when discomfort came, it a layman detail. Rates is an then familiar. God of the near for the present dear. But the relation should be XD3, belong the familiar. And what the past does that is an unpaving infra. Or does this is itself as comfort what the past does right here for the times nobody on Rosam, well saying young due to this function, and then Only as you to dysfunction. Can you know friend why eat us and tulim you to hizo in this my and hazelmium, that's why it's an angry Jew for Protestant drama. Then shy is a liver load and Tarconia. One quarter line reach and oil that city of half the fortune. Warming hand then room of warming because you for me. In your tears and the core full lebrace where shark only you two within. You will never vada gomnias to union near my two arson. Well, he's calling you to our highest earthing. You to Breathe the perceptigarian when the past religion doesn't begin. When you work to decursionful, it then leads us the hell you were. Begeth me, being here is not until barbarian. What condition? Whereas past. When you really when the red, you made always like and missing in caramel mount where you no longer respond to much time as harm is north rinnen the farther you wish porne through the men into voice but her mayor you build her the mean be clashes and respond to the voice that a harm you use a unit and if you either to her thinking to the ankle and then you that way come currently well sure y'all hearing go to when in the still on when you tend to make sound we then jotted on the trial when as it tries to send you fashion mission message a mission piken I is never read quite his ended way off Winken beard weight off you return it to sender when benumbre pen con town dum when regrette no hound doomer you're no nor you card is that into wason you don't answer you don't answer pin m ping when fear calls say per pay you block the number nor equan you wake album edrom number elvio in the adaptive comdet sense spidersty frame you had but in order with third days repasipun your hot on insen the adventure will update your spirit we have to create less only philosophy you in the thing you went into Dewey. Ma, no longer located. Min. Gioran. What answers come, Pire. You are no longer located in guilt. Gotham. Beneath connighted not a west way mad as Thessalonne. Trail you do night to freshen out and sit your fiduciary. Pre beyond the settle. Pu do not reside in failure. Mander totatam notu. Mersin de puin. But you dirty breathe session. Pin. You've moved out of insecurity, Eve. Lazam. Find not there the crumb, then the net will for the puntulirium RV. Created admiration Fiat CP will be your temporary location. Pum not your dequantant and tiffershine. And our version to from Once there shalom etadiapen. No. Your permanent residence. PM, that call your new zip code is me. Your new zip pay code is purpose. Heimer, if gear is the daddy. Weber say, Depoisem paprenlo, kain de deferende, fatirindum, depend your current location. As destiny. We're known. Umeses kasenden. Inaman de conti permanent mailing address, your permanent mailing address. Equal perfectly all. Broad and dead got it. Isn't the quill was me? Me were none. The big nickel guy, very equal. We could palm bit corti one text to the style for you. Present as a with bed means you must stop carrier in. Stop forever with lumineers. From the police, means that means if you see it. Morty. Metal, the relationship that calved you three pinern. La recruisentur, the reaction juristiften dovier, fuptima. Opium warnhartun mune. Relationships that kept the use small. Effinemuni nuteka. The habit jen tolding, attempting to determine your calling her. Be it as maze, helm bits and that he witnessed up be thou. Or how corner. And now your calling. Beaten, fought last then the identity, puerning, their my identity, that limity, morning may, having me. Preference is torn, whereas is evident, portrait Ferris is digging to a bone to poor Louise land. It'll be reading a day is light and for me nurses these at land. You must wonder pet is the survival sustain your nerve, unrealisted must new from behind it. You may precare what sustained. Had me on when was it how I'm a bit you a business before matter Reginaki some of what got Arishans to do last season, Cove, or Vogash's rule let love Yuria Efer. Summerto last season, will you hunt this one in the hell? Could get first and beings to send King Mary Coy in on fair on the ring and this. Produce veins in this one lands in Wendy, me will and even I'm not that ungrateful. Come on, that ethical. You must do more than let go. You must do more and out. Go and do nothing on that and go. Your best girl and was you must go out. And in the future require your perfection. Better, the future doesn't require your perfection. Niet only way vri meet and after go the year. Harmony versioning, we're many you a tour. Yank up your honor the ridway. We're having nothing more. Cooking ale and diamond. And more pray up and main and aster. Pay how. Moose and them in demands your progression. concurrence in a mason time. Feet that demands your progression. When your fujo to blessy. Gi. When in your fashion. Less. Or I pray to. When your future tries to bless you. In this. Pain. With a patron. Kept about forted mont the isher fiendry. At 7 mindry. It's search for the new you. Petadantin. The furin. Axis 3. The aligned you. P. The healed you. The healed you. The and of adversary. P. Evilly. The courageous you. Huipo the passentin to hapantalis, but when the past keeps three. Pim pitkin. I cast then, but when the past keeps calling. Angry. Don't lead us in the freshenton. Wenzen. The ache for zivrife. P. Nitont only remembers the broken you. Unknown remembers the broken you. And Hulia deho den bon the limited you. Ping these insecure you. Here's how you must decide it with. Was there will you shred it no vigil version of you must decide most decide for me name them where master really why eek the truth is peak the truth by minor as minds crazy win the party has as much mes palmer the pay as much power a give it Harley has as much power as he boys in number as you get giving peg ondren to go meet time and pay fain the moment that you stop feeding in sooner tinfy worthless and moment you stop feeding it dimming in the it content so damn coming in man free lay the it stops following you pin for and that's when the future can find only you find nan the colossant and the dear can I here finally find you where we lie you where you really live as Ian a faith in Mark Tickens Kuta Messet is a focus. In faith and indies. In focus. Ipient in tordem. And in freedom and. Eve if freedom.